Hello everyone, welcome back to Pepper's Pages. I wanted to, very belatedly, talk about my top reads from 2024. I know you're thinking, Taylor, it's April. Well, if you visit my YouTube channel, you'll see I don't usually post these until March. I've been through a lot this year already, so we're just gonna pretend like it's not April for a minute and talk about these books. You wanna come up here? Come on. I was going to go through the trouble of dragging most of these books off of my bookshelf, but as you can see, Gandalf up there is guarding a lot of them, or several of them, and if I move him, there's no standing him back up, and all my trinkets are just where I can put them. Since I've gotten Behemoth, I've had to kitty-proof the apartment, so that means everything that could fit on the other shelves has been moved up because this cat really loves for me to come home and find all of my things on the floor. So we love him anyway. So without further ado, I have placed my top 5 at books that I have rated 4.75 or 4.5 on this list just because I only had 3 5s from last year. Back a couple years ago, I was reading almost 100 books a year and didn't feel like I was really retaining a lot of the information that I was getting from them or the storylines. I could regurgitate you the plot line, but I couldn't give you any exact details, characters' names, things like that, and I felt like I was overdoing it. I was finding myself to be more in a hurry to see how many books I could get done for the year instead of actually enjoying them and finding the ones that I liked and being able to explain why I like them instead of just saying, oh, I read 100 books and these are my top 5. Because I think at one point I had like a 20-minute long video about my top 5 books for like 22 or 23. I don't remember. It was a lot. So last year I only read about 30 some odd books. The year before that was about 50. We're slowing down considerably with the way times are now. I don't think that's a bad thing because we got a lot going on. But the top 5 books I picked out for 2024. The first one is Cursed Bunny by Bora Chung. Apparently this is the first time that her books have been translated to English and sold in America. I was going to get her other book, something about a dystopia. I can't remember it for the life of me now, but it has a little robot on it. I almost got that one, but I saw The Cursed Bunny, read the back, and thought I might enjoy those short stories a little bit more. So, Cursed Bunny by Bora Chung has this cute little bunny rabbit, and that's probably the biggest reason why I chose this. It's because I like the rabbit. And you've probably heard me say this before, I'm horrible about choosing books based on their covers. So, we have the main stories, The Head, The Embodiment, Cursed Bunny, The Frozen Finger, Snare, Goodbye My Love, Scars, Home Sweet Home, Ruler of Winds and Sands, and Reunion. I won't go through every single one of these, but I will say The Head is probably a really great way to start out this short story collection. It's this woman who notices this weird being that's starting to grow in her toilet, and it eventually turns into a person who's begging to get out, and it may or may not be like her clone, like a younger version of herself trying to take over. That was a trip. But overall, the short stories in this were wonderful. Great horror novel. If you haven't checked out anything by Bora Chung, I highly recommend it. As soon as I can, I'm going to be going and getting her second book. I've seen it several times in the store, but I've had other things that I've wanted to get, so I haven't got to yet, but I'm excited to do so. So I gave that one a 5. I read The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoevsky. I mentioned that in my last video. I read Notes from the Underground this year and enjoyed that a lot. Brothers Karamazov is a chunk. You can take a look at it and know you're in for a long haul with this, but it is very worth it. It follows 3 brothers and their father. All of them, except for Alyosha, are messes. They are just absolutely chaos to the extreme. And the brothers have to come together and, well, ultimately, I guess it's up to Alyosha. Their father is forced to prematurely expire. I think that's the best way to put that. And the town and its people are trying to figure out who did it. And for most of the book, your guess is probably going to be right. I immediately knew it had to be one of the brothers, but I wasn't sure who. And who it turns out to be is not all that shocking, but at the same time, not who I thought it would be. And I think, personally, I think that there were 2 people involved and only one gets caught. But you don't get enough evidence, and the way the story ends is kind of left off at this point where they're going to go try to save the one that has been accused wrongly. And they don't really give you like any closure, and that's okay, because don't do it. You can leave it, it leaves it up to interpretation, so you can decide whether or not the person falsely accused gets away. Do not jump on the desk. Or you can just take it as it is and leave it. And that's something I think that's very beautiful about it. But overall, a very great story about family and all the things that could possibly happen when it comes to family and being blood tied to someone. A lot of times people think that they have to help someone in their family or be a part of a situation that they really have no place being in, simply because they are family. And I think that's something that Alyosha has to deal with constantly throughout this story. I do want to talk about this one more in depth, so I'm trying to be really light on it. But if you haven't read Fyodor Dostoevsky, I don't necessarily know you should start with this one. Maybe Notes from the Underground would be better, or Crime and Punishment, because they're a bit shorter. But Brothers Karamazov is very much worth it. It's worth the time, and it's, even if it is a long trek, I think you should give it a shot if you are into the more classic stories. Then we have, of course, a Junji Ito, and that is Venus in the Blind Spot. This is another short story collection. I do not believe I own that one. I do not. I think that's another one that I got from the library. Enjoyed them all, always do. I think Ramina is still my top Junji Ito book, just for so many reasons. But I haven't read anything that's really disappointed me by him. So, moving on. This one's rated 4.75, and it's mostly just because I have a hard time placing novelizations or children's books into certain categories. This is not a children's book. Usually I'll give, like, if I read something like Unfortunate Events, I'll place that as a 3. If I read something from my childhood, I usually place it as a 3 just because it's a children's book. And I don't think you can really tier those or rate them like you would a normal novel. So, all that being said, Cabin in the Woods by Tim Levin. This is a novelization of the movie Cabin in the Woods, and I gave it a 4.75 because I wanted to give it a 5, but I don't feel like it's exactly fair to give a novelization a 5. I did the same thing for the Ghostbusters 1 and 2 novelizations that I read years ago, and I felt like that was probably for the best. But if you like Cabin in the Woods in any sort of capacity, I really, really recommend you finding this novelization and reading it. They do make Kurt more of a jerk throughout the entire book. Oh, what's his name? The love interest for the redheaded girl. My memory is just escaping me at the moment, but he is also kind of more of a creep. Marty's just the lovable character that you've always known. They make Jules more of a blonde, is the best way I can put that, because I'm not going to describe it any other way. And then you get more of the nitty-gritty details when it comes to everything that's happening underground. A lot more internal thoughts coming from these characters, and it's canon, because I mean, it's the official novelization. But it's those things in the movie that I remember watching and being like, man, I wish I had a little more detail on this. Or, you know, because the movie's so great, you can watch it 1,000 times and wish that it was longer. I don't have a copy of this anymore. I used to, but I A friend of mine has a friend, and we hung out one night, and I learned that he only watches Cabin in the Woods like all the time. I don't know if he still does, but as soon as I learned about that and we watched Cabin in the Woods together, I was like, I gotta give this guy my copy because it's just too good. And I hope he enjoyed it. I hope he read it. If not, whatever. I mean, it's not a big deal to me. But I enjoyed it so much that I wanted to pass it on to somebody else. So if you like Cabin in the Woods in any capacity, highly recommend seeking out that novelization because it just gives a little bit more. It's still the same story that you know and love, but you get a little bit more in the way of details and inner dialogue and things like that. So I thought that was really wonderful. All right, for my 4.5s, I'm going to kind of just go through these, try not to ramble about them. We have Shutter Island by Dennis Laney, or Lee Haney, sorry. I watched the movie when I was very young, enjoyed it a whole lot, stuck with me, and then I learned that it was a book. It got recommended to me, so I found a copy and read that and really loved it. It's a great suspense, like psychological thriller. It's also got a little bit of horror aspects to it, but if you don't know anything about Shutter Island's story, you might look into some of the trigger warnings because the reveal at the end is really deep and very, very sad. So just a warning. The Other Boleyn Girl by Philippa Gregory. I watched that one again when I was very young and I remembered very little except for the ending. So I knew already what was going to happen. This is a very sad tale. I do like Philippa Gregory's books. I've read The White Queen, The Kingmaker's Daughter, and I actually have that one over there. I didn't really like The White Queen. I love the TV show. That's what I started off with, and that's what got me into Philippa Gregory. But the book wasn't as strong for that. I loved The Kingmaker's Daughter. That one was a fantastic historical fiction. Like, I'm not one to read historical fiction, but that one was wonderful. I remember this one being really good. I actually watched the movie yesterday, just trying to catch up on movies that I've read the books for. It's just so sad, man. Like, I remember for some reason reading the book and feeling bad for Anne, but the movie made me like not. So I'm like, girl, this is wholly your fault, and it's so tragic. But great story, a true story. I mean, this is obviously fictionalized, but still, like, if you don't know anything about that history, you could probably start there and then work your way up, I guess. Rosemary's Baby by Ira Levin. I was actually given this very beautiful old copy as a gift last year. I read it. I grew up watching the movie, absolutely loved it, loved this book. If you don't know what Rosemary's Baby is, it's a woman and her husband who move into an apartment complex. They win like this lottery to move into a very high-end complex. And she starts realizing that the neighbors are not who they say they are, and she and her baby are in very serious trouble. So, older book, older movie. Mia Farrow plays Rosemary in the movie. The book Nestlings by Nat Cassidy very much has the same feel, except for he takes it in a different way. Just wonderful. If you haven't read that, Rosemary's Baby by Ira Levin, please do so. It's very good. Okay. Then I've also read the Books of Blood 5 and 6 to finish off that series by Clive Barker. I loved pretty much all of them. There were some short stories from books 1 to 6 that I was like, not really into, you know. But for the most part, I absolutely adored that series. Well, I say adored. It was pretty terrifying. I thought that was wonderful. It was a really, really wonderful series. The first book kicks it off perfectly. I will be rereading that at some point, but I don't know about the other ones. You do have a mix of stories like The Candyman. That's mixed in there. It is different from the movie, so if you haven't seen it or if you've seen that and haven't read it, they're pretty different, not too far off, but I do love the original Candyman as well. The new one was pretty good too. So any of the Candyman you can go after. It is not called The Candyman. I want to say it's called like the Inhumane Condition or something like that. I'd have to look into it and make sure. Yeah, Clive Barker is always going to remain strong with me just because I think he is one of the best horror authors that has ever existed. I mean, there are plenty of them out there, but he is definitely top tier in my book. Then we have The Omen by David Seltzer. You all know the classic movie The Omen, right? Little boy is actually the Antichrist. His poor family has to raise him. The poor kid, I mean, I do feel bad for the kid, honestly, because the kid didn't choose that life. And it's not necessarily a spoiler to tell you that, because it's been around since like forever. I mean, like the 50s. I think the movie came out in like the 50s or 60s. But it's fantastic. It's creepy. I've seen the original Omen film, and the book and it follow very closely together. It's just, I wanted to read it to see just how close they were to each other, and I thought it was wonderful. Not my favorite horror book in the world, but one of the top tier ones if you want classic horror. Then we have Spiral by Koji Suzuki. I've talked about Rings. I've talked about his other books before. I actually have them up there. I'm very excited because now my collection is up to date so far, because I lost my Rings copy and got one for Christmas. So I'm very happy, but right now I own Rings, Dark Water, and Spiral. And Spiral is the continuation of the Rings series. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, think back to early 2000s. A little movie called The Ring came out. And I want to say Naomi Watts was in that movie. And it's about a evil VHS tape that if you watch it, you're cursed. You'll get a phone call saying you'll die in 7 days. This book continues that. So this one feels more on the scientific side, where the first one was more journalistic. The main character in the first one's trying to figure out what's going on and piece it all together. This one gets more into the DNA of the VHS itself. It almost lost me a few times because of that. Honestly, not bad, like not in a bad way, but it's just like, I can see where this is going and how it's going to play out. But Suzuki kind of drags it a little bit. Again, it's not bad. I'm not ripping him for it, but I'm just saying, like, if you decide to read this, or if you read Rings and you really like that and you want to continue it, just be aware that it's going to feel more Jurassic Park the book than Jurassic Park the movie. But overall, wonderful. Really wonderful books. I do have an S by Koji Suzuki, which is another continuation of, I believe, the Ring series. It follows, if I'm remembering right, it follows the son of the protagonist from the first book, Rings, and he's a surgeon. I almost got Birthday, which is a four short story collection following Rings. I don't know, I'm kind of leaning away from it now, because I feel like you can only go so long. I might eventually read it, but for now, I'm okay. Hey boy, I need you to quit. I need you to stop. Next is Frankenstein by Junji Ito. I read Frankenstein, I think a year or two ago, maybe early last year. It had to have been 2 years ago now, because it would have been on this list, because I really loved Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. This is an adaptation of Frankenstein by Junji Ito. It only takes up a small portion of that actual Frankenstein book. It has other short stories in it. I enjoyed it mostly because he takes it in a weird direction and finishes it well before the story's even over. Like, the sections where Dr. Frankenstein is working on this other creature for the monster, or for the creature itself to have a partner, Junji takes that a little bit further. I didn't know how to quite feel about it at first. I mean, he just took some liberties, and that's all. It didn't ruin it. It didn't ruin the story. It didn't ruin Frankenstein. It was just very interesting to see his take on it. So that was enjoyable. And last but not least, sorry, I've been rambling this whole time, we have Dexter by Design by Jeff Lindsay. I have slowly been making my way through the Dexter series. I'm trying to push my glasses up and they're not even there. For a long time now. I've watched the TV show, all the way up to, what was it, New Blood, or whatever season it was that, he was living as like a lumberjack or something. I don't know that I'll be watching the newer shows. I'm still kind of hesitant. After Yellow Jackets is over, I may give it a shot. But for now, I'm just going to stick with the books. They have been very different, and I like that so much because I've seen the TV show so many times. The first book does follow the storyline with the TV show really closely, but there are characters that are removed very quickly in the first book that I was not expecting. I thought they would last a lot longer like they do in the TV show. So that made it very fun to be like, oh my gosh, that character's gone now. And just so many horrible things happen to like Dokes. Oh my goodness. But in this book, it's very slow. And it's mostly because Dexter's just struggling with who he is and what he does and whether he wants to continue doing it. And this is also the beginning of Rita having Harrison and them getting married. I have gotten the next book, which is Dexter by Design. Oh, no. Please tell me I didn't just buy the same book. Okay. I don't know if I have the next book or not. I just turned around and realized I may have bought the same book twice, but it's okay. Anyway, that one was very slow. I wasn't as into it, but I'm hoping the next one will be a little bit more exciting. So we'll see. I may have to rewatch the TV show now. I recently started it over on season 4 because I feel like it's the best. I like season 1, always skip season 2 because Lila just drives me so insane. I can't even help it. 3 is really good because that's when Miguel comes in. And then 4 is when John Lithgow joins. But yeah, I could talk about Dexter all day. So those are my top books for 2024. My 5s, 4.75, and then my 4.5s. Next year, like I say every year, I'll try to be a little more organized and actually do this on time. No promises, because like I said, the last like 2 or 3 years, it's been kind of iffy on if it even gets posted in May or March, my lord. So yeah, but thanks for sitting here listening to me ramble. If you have any thoughts on any of the books that I've talked about, any other recommendations that would go along with some of these books, I'm always open to more books to read. Clearly, you can see how many I have that I need to catch up on, and that's not even half of them. But I appreciate you being here. As always, I hope you're having a great day, an even better week, and until next time, happy reading. Say bye, Behemoth. He's sleepy. He's sleepy boy. He just wants to be left alone. Good night.